Okay, so welcome back to my channel. Okay, this is going to be a recap of Insatiable season 1, episode 7, Miss Magic Jesus. Okay, so it's the day of the pageant, and Bob Armstrong, he's sitting in church. Pastor Mike's up there preaching, giving a good word, I guess. And he receives a text from Coralee, and she says she's ready to talk. Okay, so his phone is constantly going off, right, during the service, and so people are kind of looking at him. And then he receives a text from Barnard saying, meet me at someplace in 10 minutes or I'm going to blow you. So he sat there confused. And then Barnard sent another text like, oh, sorry, I mean, I'm going to blow your life up. So he leaves the church to go meet with him. He's showing him the video of Patty, of Christian performing fellatio on Patty, and he's claiming that he intercepted the video before it hit the internet. They set that girl up. Anywho, he's basically he's trying to blackmail Bob Armstrong, saying that Patty needs to drop out of the Miss Magnolia competition or else. And Bob Armstrong was like, "You're not doing this for me." He said, "No, you're right. I'm doing this for my daughter. Patty stole 2 boys from her and made her feel like a loser. Nobody messes with my daughter." And so now Patty has created another mess for Bob Armstrong to clean up. Chad, please. We flash to Magnolia and Dixie. So they're in Magnolia's room. Dixie is clearly drunk or high off her ass, and she just can't believe that that Fatty Patty, or the former Fatty Patty, stole 2 boys from her. And so Dixie, that girl is out her damn mind. She's like, well, you know what? Well, don't worry, because our daddy's going to fix everything for us. And Magnolia's like, he is not your damn father. Dixie and her mama are out of their damn mind. And so Bob Barnard comes in. He's a DA. Why is he listening to this child? But she was like, you know, your plan to blackmail Patty and Bob may actually work. He said it's not going to mean anything if we can't get her to stand up, because remember, this is the day of the competition, and she something is, I don't know if she's drunk or high, but she just probably planned by Dixie as well. She was like, well, just think about it. You can take me all the way to Miss American Lady. Think about it. The DA that put her mama in jail and adopted her and coached her, and he was like, first of all, I'm not your damn daddy. You're not an orphan, and we need to get her together so she can compete. I'm like, I can't even remember what Dixie's last name is, but them her and her mother some damn delusional bitches. Bob Armstrong is now chewing Patty and Christian out. He's basically like, can there ever be a day without your drama blowing up everybody's life? And he was like, she was like, oh my God, did you see it? And of course, Bob was like, I don't want to think about it. He's like, Bob Barnard is thinking about showing this to your father, because remember, Christian's father is Pastor Mike, and Pastor Mike deals with the Miss Magic Jesus pageant. So if Master Mike sees the tape and decides to kick Patty out, then all of Bob Armstrong's work would have been in vain. But Christian was like, don't show my father, because I'm already on thin ice with him. My mama wants you to put me in prison, put me in jail. So Patty was like, it's sick, because she said, now that I'm with Christian, I don't see Bob in that way. I don't see him as a lover, but I don't want to lose his love as a father figure. All right, sorry, I had to make sure I was still recording. That you don't want to lose his. So when you saw him as a lover and a father figure, okay, that's disturbing. Yeah, when I heard that kind of took me back a little bit. Like, okay, that's weird. But she was like, I can't believe it. I'm the only virgin in history whose sex tape is going to ruin my life. He said, well, wait a minute, what do you mean? She said, well, we didn't actually have sex. He kind of just made out with, and he was like, oh, okay. So what if we can Bill Clinton this. Basically, it's a sex tape that's not really a sex tape. And so next thing you know, you see Patty and Bob Armstrong in Pastor Mike's office, and Bob Armstrong is doing that. He did not have sex with that woman, talking about his son. And so Pastor Mike was like, you know, I'm not going to kick you out of the competition. It seems like your baptism, the baptism really worked. You've confessed your sins. You're taking responsibility for it. And so I feel that you are what, you embody what Miss Magic Jesus is all about. So he's allowing her to stay in the pageant. That girl got more lives than a cat. Ooh, girl. While they were finishing up their meeting, Stella Rose and what's her name, Roxy walks in, and Pastor Mike said, yeah, we had a judge that dropped out, and Stella Rose agreed to stand in for them. And she said, and then he was like, she encouraged us to add a new segment to the competition where people have to quote Bible verses or something like that. And you know that she only just got baptized and only got baptized to participate in the competition. So that's going to be interesting. And so Bob Armstrong told Pastor Mike, you know, I don't think that's a good idea. We seem to have a conflict of interest. Stella Rose and she was my pageant. Stella Rose was my pageant mentor a long time ago, and it ended badly. And I feel like she might end up giving Patty a low score to settle her old one. And of course she was like, oh, that's just ridiculous. He said, so maybe we should go to lunch and see if we can put all of this behind us. So this is gonna be funny. Stella Rose and Bob they went to the Wiener Taco, and and so while they were there, Barnard walked in, and made some little comment just to get under Bob's skin. And he introduced Stella Rose as his pageant mentor, and he said that he's her protege. She brought her protege Roxy to scope out the competition. You see Bob Armstrong. She said that Roxy's I heard Magnolia is the one to beat, and Bob Armstrong said not the only one, and then he introduced them. And then she got left to go get something to eat, get some ketchup or something. And Bob Barnard was like, what do you mean? He said, oh, well, we went straight to Pastor and told him all about the sex tape, and he just let Patty off with a slap on the wrist. And so, of course, he's pissed. Bob Barnard is pissed. And so they called his order. He left to go get his order. And Stella Rose started receiving text. And he finds out Bob Armstrong reads the text. And when she came back, she left her phone on the table. The text was basically saying, Mom, I'm on my way to the gym. So he finds out that Roxy is actually Stella Rose's daughter. And so he started doing the math. And then as soon as she sat down, he was like, who's Roxy's father? And she was like, what are you talking about? Yeah, that was just 20 years ago. I did the math. And so Stella Rose just, that's ancient history. Let's just forget about it. And then she basically grabbed her stuff and left. So I'm like, oh, shit. So are we going to find out, or Coralee, who is still waiting to meet with him so they can talk for the first time since that whole situation? Are we going to find out that Roxy is actually his daughter? Me actually called, and they haven't said her name. I don't even know why I didn't look it up. The plus size pageant contestant. And so they're actually out on a date. And so Patty ends up calling her because she was telling her about the last minute edition, about the Bible verse, and she needs her help. And so she turned to the lady, to the woman, and she said, "Did you know they added the last minute Bible verse segment to the pageant?" She's like, "Oh yeah, but I got that down cold." So she was unbothered. She was like, "Okay." So initially she was gonna go and help Patty, but the lady said, "Are you?" She said, do you not want to go because you're trying to ease into the girl thing? Or do you not want to go because you're still hung up on Patty? And so Nomi thought about it for a while, and she was basically like, you know what? She can figure it out. So I don't know if Nomi's going to send her a text, let her know, I know I said I was going to help, but I changed my mind. Or she just going to leave her hanging. Okay. Pastor's talking to Patty's mom and telling her that about the sex tape. And he was like, he said that, you know, usually when teens act out like this, it means there are problems at home. And so she had the nerve to stand there and was like, are you blaming me? And I don't know, that light is making me so freaking yellow. But she was like, are you blaming me? He's like, well, what is her relationship like with her father? And then she was like, well, I don't know who her father is. So what was your relationship with your own father? And she said, he left or he died when I was young. You know, what about your mom? Did she have men in the house? And she said, oh, well, she had Gordy and he was around until I was about 13. He's like, well, when did you start become sexually active? She said 14. So he's like, basically what you should do is encourage her to spend more time with the positive male role models in her life and whoever it was on that tape, because we found out that he doesn't know it was his son on the tape. She tried to keep her away from that as far away from that person as possible. And she was like, well, she doesn't have any positive male role models in her life. He said, well, sure she does. Bob Armstrong, he's her godfather, isn't he? Well, encourage her to spend more time with him. And so we flashed to the next scene where Patty is I'm assuming that Nomi at some point contacted her and said, I'm not gonna be able to make it. And so she actually called Christian to help her try to cram for this portion in this pageant where they have to quote Bible verses. So as they were about to get all hot and heavy, Bob walks in with her dressed in a steamer and the whole thing, and he tells her that she has to steam her own dress, and because he has to run off. And she's like, but wait, are you leaving me? And he was basically like, he told her about him thinking that Roxy is his daughter, and that he has to go and talk to her. He said it just makes sense that me and Stella Rose would make the perfect pageant girl. And of course that made Patty feel some kind of way. She's like, what do you mean? You think she's better than me? He was basically like, this is not about you. And she was like, well, yes it is. The pageant is only hours away. I'm gonna need your help. I can't believe you're leaving me. And he was basically like, I have to get her before she leaves town to talk to her, and I'll be back to do your hair and makeup. And so now Patty is just sitting there feeling some kind of way, feeling, I guess, abandoned by this guy she sees as a father figure that she also was trying to seduce. Barnard is trying to collude with Stella Rose to take down Bob Armstrong. So they both have a bone to pick with Bob Armstrong and Patty. And so he's trying to get Stella Rose to give him the answers. And she was like, well, if your daughter's that good, then why do you need the answers? And he's like, well, I'm her father. I want to give her every advantage that I can. And Stella Rose looked at him and was like, yeah, you're father of the year. And so we go to Patty, who's out with Dee. Finally said her name. They're out at some little fast food restaurant sitting down eating, and her father just happens to walk in, who's, like I said, I still don't know if he's the chief of police or just on the force, but he went there to pick up lunch for the rest of the officers back at the station. And he saw them sitting, and he, introduced himself, and, she was being kind of weird. Patty was being kind of, Patty, Lord, no, her name is Nonnie. I keep calling her Nomi. Nonnie was being kind of weird. And he's like, well, why don't I stay for a while and get to know your new friend? And she's like, oh, no, it's all fine because she has to, we're leaving soon or something. And she said, well, why don't she come over later for dinner? And she was like, oh, no, because she's participating in the Miss Magic Jesus pageant. And he was basically, they basically said their goodbyes. And I think he said, so we should go together. And to support her. It's been a long time since we had a daddy-daughter date. And so he basically, he said his goodbyes. He went back to the station. He said, why did you say, your father was trying to let you know, your father's trying to let you know that he knows this is a date. That's why he was trying to sit there, get to know me. She was like, no, he doesn't. No, he was like, no, he didn't. She was like, yeah, he was trying to, I guess, be supportive. She was like, nobody asked her, something, and she said why, because he might think that you're gay. Perish the thought. And she was like, well, no, because I don't know if I'm gay yet, and I don't want to open that can of worms, basically, until I figure out what this is, until I figure out who I am and what I want. I don't even want to start that conversation. So let me find out. I can't remember that woman's name. Patty's mom. She's actually trying to be a mom for a change. So go back a little bit. Bob actually went to the gym to talk to Sally because he knew from the text that she would be at the gym and she would be there alone. And so he, you know, got on the treadmill next to her and he started asking her questions. They realized they had this weird thing with, she was on the treadmill and she got upset because he distracted her and she went over like 15 seconds. And he was like, yeah, I have the same thing where I have to stop on a 0. And so they kind of laughed it off. And then she said, then he asked her, like, do you know who your father is? And she was like, well, no, because I only found out that Stella Rose was my mother a year ago because she had put me up for adoption and I sought her out when I turned 18. And she told me that my father died in the crash. And so he saw that she had this the towel and she had, you know, wiped the sweat off her face. And so he made her some excuse to leave and he said he was going to get her a fresh towel. He took her towel so he could do a DNA test. So then you have Patty, she's sitting there trying to steam her dress, and of course she's still disappointed and upset that Bob ran out on her. And her mom was like, so you made a sex tape? And she was like, oh wow, Pastor Mike told me. And so Patty was like, oh, does he know who it is? She was like, that's not the point. The point is that I see you making the same issues, making the same mistakes that I've made. You know, my father abandoned me when I was young. And so that's always my view of men, is that they always leave. And she said that, and Patty said, well, yeah, they do, because Bob abandoned me. He thinks he has a daughter out there somewhere, and he went to go figure that all out. And so she was like, her mom was like, well, you know, you don't need him to win the pageant. And of course, Patty was like, well, yes, I do. You know, basically, he's been there every step of the way, because she wants him to see her as a perfect pageant girl. And she basically confessed that she sent Christian to get the quiz so that she would obviously have the advantage in the contest. And her mom was like, you know, she started talking to her mom, and her mom was like, you know, I don't think that you should cheat, because if you do, then you'll never know if you could have actually done it on your own. And if you need a study partner, I'll help you study for it. Now, I don't know how much studying they're going to do. The pageant is with, I don't know, a couple of hours away. So, but the fact is, finally, she was actually there when Patty needed her. Christian is in there. I don't know how long he was in there fiddling around with this thing, with trying to get the quiz, the answers. And here's the door going, and he jumps under the desk, and his phone goes off. And so his father walked in, it seemed like the way he walked in, he knew that somebody was in there, Christian was in there. And so he kind of peeked under the desk, like, what are you doing? Get from under there. Why is my computer open to the quiz? And he said, you're stealing this test for a girl. Who is it? And he was like, well, that, you know, he obviously he didn't want to say it was Patty. And he said, you know what? I'm done defending you. You know, I keep defending you to your mom, even after what went down in Brazil. But he didn't say what went down in Brazil. He said, from now on, maybe your mom is right. You can't be saved. And so Christian was like, well, don't say that. He was like, you know what? I'm done defending you. And now it's up to your mom, whatever happens next. So it's like, and we already know his mom will want him to go to jail. So after the conversation with Patty and her mom called Bob and left a message for him, basically like, if he doesn't get to the pageant, get there in 30 minutes, and she was gonna kick his ass. Basically, is what the gist of her conversation. And so they're at the pageant, and she's trying to do Patty's makeup, but you know, Patty's still upset. You know, she's kind of, and her mom is nervous for her, and it's a whole big thing. And so Nonnie and Dee walk up, and so so Patty was like, oh, I'm glad you came to support me. And Dee put her arm around Nonnie, was like, actually, she came to support me. And then they kissed. And they're like, oh, okay. So I guess we're a thing. And so basically she grabbed Nonnie and went over to her section. She was like, Dee was like, I don't like the energy over here. And so they go over to her. I guess she found a little corner so she could get herself together in her makeup. So Bob finally arrives, and Patty's mom pulled him to the side and basically like, you know, you're the only father figure that she knows, basically, and I need to know that she's going to be safe with you and that you're never going to hurt her or abandon her. And he basically, I would never do that. I would never abandon her. And so he went back over, and he whipped her. He beat her face and whipped her hair and got her all up. And so, you know, they have the opening part of the pageant where they come out and they sing and do a little dance number. And I'm looking like, okay, Dee, she's not the only dark-skinned woman up there, but she is the only dark plus-size woman up there. There was another dark-skinned woman in the back who was thin, but she's surrounded by all of these fair-skinned either white or biracial women, and they have her up there front and center as a dark-skinned plus size woman, and then she did some kind of rap. So I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that. And so, you know, they go through that whole thing, and so then the Jesus part comes up where they ask questions, then they have to hit the buzzer and respond. Magnolia wiped the floor with Patty. And so Patty was, you know, got nervous, and Bob, he's waiting for the DNA results to come back. And so he's on his phone, he's texting, he's, you know, all kind of distracted with what's going on. And so she asked him, you know, before they went out to do the question and answer part of the competition, if Roxy turns out to be your daughter, then, and I win, and we both go to the American Lady pageant, who are you going to root for? And he was like, well, I'm going to root for both of you. And she was like, you can't root for both of us because only one of us can win the crown. And so he basically tried to reassure her, but he's on, you know, still on his phone. So she goes out, does the question and answer part, and it got down to 3 contestants. So it was D, Magnolia, and Patty. And so in the end, basically, Magnolia won. And so Patty obviously was disappointed, and she went to the back and she blamed Bob. She's like, well, if he had been there for me, then if he'd been there for you, then what? I mean, I understand that she's a teenager, but sometimes Patty really gets on my damn nerves. It's like, if he'd been there, then what? He's basically been cleaning up your shit since he met you, and the fact that something else came up that he had to deal with, you want the center of attention. That's what I'm getting from her. That now all of a sudden you all upset and you feeling all put out and abandoned. And so she goes out and goes in the back, and she was basically, you know, she was trying to talk to him, but then he gets a phone call with the DNA results, and she basically said while he's on the phone, like, I quit. And she walks out, and so you can see his face. He's like got his fingers crossed, and then his facial expression changed completely when they told him who the father was. And so well, at that moment, you don't know they told him who the father was. His facial expression just changed, so you kind of figured, okay, he's not the father. And so Patty's back at home, and Christian comes by. She lets him in, and he was basically like, you know, my parents are done with me, and they're about to send me to military school, and I gotta leave town, and I want you to come with me. And so he, you know, at this point, you don't really know if she decided to go or not, but it doesn't matter. So you have Bob Barnard. He's over at Bob Armstrong goes over to Bob Barnard's house, and he was he basically, they started talking about the pageant, and then you find out that Bob Barnard is actually Roxy's father. And you're like, what did, he's like, so of course Bob Armstrong, like, when did that happen? He's like, it was 20 years ago when she was heartbroken, and she found me, she, you know, sought me out because she knew that you hated me since high school, and he's known about Roxy all this time, and she's been sending her money, and even though she put Roxy up for adoption, he was like, that was her choice to do that. And he basically pulled out his checkbook and was basically asking Bob Armstrong, how much is it going to cost me now to keep you quiet? And Bob Armstrong was like, everything can't be bought. And then he sat on the couch, and he realized he was sitting next to Magnolia's sash and crown. And so Bob Barnard basically said, okay, I found this in Magnolia's room. He gave him the sheet that he had with the questions and answers. Basically said Magnolia cheated. So if she gets disqualified, Patty was his runner-up, and so if Magnolia gets disqualified, then Patty gets the crown, and she can go to the American Lady pageant. And so Bob Armstrong was like, well, Magnolia would be devastated. And he's like, you know what, at this point, I'm just trying to protect my family. You already know that Magnolia has a drug and alcohol problem, and this is just going to send her over the edge, and I'm just trying to keep my family together at this point. And so what they didn't know is that Magnolia was far off and she heard the entire conversation. So now she knows about the drug. I mean, she knows about the Roxy. She has a sister out there somewhere. She knows that her father basically just sold her out after doing that whole pep talk to get her into this damn competition to save face, just to rub it in Bob Armstrong's face, and then you snatch it from her just to cover your own ass from your past indiscretions. And so Bob Armstrong ends up going to Patty's house, and he has the crown and sash. Her mom answers the door, and he's like, basically like, Magnolia was disqualified, which means Patty won. And Patty and her mom was like, well, Patty's not here. He's like, oh, well, where is she? He said, oh, well, she ran away. And she showed him 2 envelopes. I don't know. For life of me, I don't know. I can't remember what that was, but he just looked at the envelopes and was just like, okay. And so next you know, you flash to Patty. Apparently she agreed to leave for question, so they're in the car down the road leaving Georgia. So actually, and then you go back to the, I'm sorry, I got to backtrack a little bit. Barnard back at Barnard's house, he goes into Dixie goes into Magnolia's room, and Magnolia is unresponsive, and so she called Barnard. Why she calling that man daddy? God, she makes me sick. He runs in and sees that she's unresponsive, and he tells Dixie to call the police and to dial 911. And she's like, don't worry, Dad, we're going to get through this. He's like, just call the police now. And she kind of like dragged her feet and called, and she has a little smirk on her face. So I'm like, did she do something to her drugs or what? I don't know what she may have given Magnolia. I'm like, them bitches are crazy. Her and her mammy. Her mammy is statutory is in prison for statutory rape, and she's levied all these false accusations against Bob Armstrong. They created all this havoc in these people's lives from all their games and lies and tricks, and now here this bitch may have done something to Magnolia. So I'm gonna keep watching, but this episode, I don't know, it just left a bad taste. There were just quite a few things in this episode that just kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, but I'm gonna end this here, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.